Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. My name is Tom Borg, customer profitability expert, and today we're privileged to have Mr. Jim Bitterle, managing partner with EDSI Consulting out of Dearborn, Michigan. Jim's company does a lot of great things to attract and retain the best people, and with that, I want to say, Jim, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Jim, to start things off, could you tell us a little bit about EDSI? What does it do? Who are some of your customers?
Sure. We are, as you mentioned, headquartered in Dearborn, Michigan. We have offices throughout the eastern half of the United States. We've been around since 1979, and we really have two very strong businesses within the EDSI umbrella. The first one is a workforce development practice where we run workforce development programs across the country. So in the state of Michigan, an example would be we're a contractor for Michigan Works, where we run various programs for them where we take folks that do not have a job for one reason or another. We assess them, we train them, and we get them jobs. And that's what we call, that's known as the public workforce development system. The other major chunk of work that we have within EDSI is a consulting practice. And we do management consulting and workforce consulting. And the management consulting would be kind of the standard stuff that a lot of people think about. Strategic planning, financial consulting, operational improvement, and turnaround work. Those would just be a few examples. On the workforce consulting side, we do everything related to talent and workforce analytics. So we may look at a workforce to identify skills gaps. We may do an analysis of what are the risks related to retirement and what knowledge needs to be captured. We do a ton of customized training and training programs. And we'll also get involved in recruiting and assessment and training for companies directly as well. So those kind of cover the major elements of EDSI.
And Jim, you have a number of employees in your organization. But how many people are employed there?
Well, today we're over 550, and we've just recently won some new business, so we expect that near year-end we will be about 600 employees.
Wow, and you're across the country, are you? Or?
We are, now our consulting work we do across the country, and in our workforce development work, that is in the eastern half of the U.S. And you had also mentioned, who are some of your customers. Mm-hmm. In the public workforce development side of the business, our customers are regional, state and regional government entities that are funded by federal dollars. And that's that side of the business. On the consulting side, we work on the management consulting side, we work with many small and medium-sized manufacturing and service-based companies. So it's a broad range. And then in the workforce consulting practice, we also work with those small and middle-sized companies. But we also do a lot of work with large companies. We worked with Ford Motor Company, Harley-Davidson, Kraft. For example, at Kraft, we just recently built their apprenticeship programs for their bakery in South Chicago. So we've got kind of a broad array of clients on the consulting side.
Excellent. Well, Jim, let me ask you a question here that I've got written down. One of the problems I hear a lot about in the marketplace today, especially in Michigan, is the challenge of a small business finding great employees. What's your formula for finding the best people?
Well, so this is an issue for virtually every one of our clients. And the difficulty is finding people, right? And finding people not only that can show up every day, that have some of the core skills that you need, but finding them that even have some semblance of the basic knowledge you want them to have and skill sets that you want them to have to do whatever job it is that you're hiring them for. So what we typically find is people are looking for what we call unicorns. Unicorns don't exist, or you have to make them. You have to build your own, right? And right. The reality is companies are looking for people that don't exist. If they do exist, they're typically not out available in the marketplace. You would have to find them embedded in other companies. Mm-hmm. So it's the most difficult recruiting environment that we've ever seen. And the reality is, what we tell people now is you really need to build your own talent. If you haven't developed the capabilities to develop your people and to develop your own talent, then you're really going to struggle. In fact, for the first time ever, we're seeing companies that are financially struggling. So some of our turnaround accounts that are directly related to the issues they're having with attracting the right people and attracting the number of people, frankly, that they need. So the biggest thing to do right now is build capabilities to develop your own talent, which means you take people at lower levels and the ones that have core skills that you know are good, that have good work ethic, that maybe are a good cultural fit, then create career ladders for them, and then create training programs to develop them into higher level. Because it's still always easier to bring people in at a lower level and train them up and move them up. So that's the number one thing that frankly companies need to do. And we're starting to see that there's a sort of a sea change going on where companies are beginning to realize that they're simply not going to find what they're looking for on the outside, so they need to build the talent from within.
Excellent. Well, when it comes to EDSI, what would you say are the three top values that you look for in the people that you're looking to hire for your company, for EDSI?
So first of all, they have to be a cultural fit. That's the first thing for us. We pride ourselves on having a great culture and being a great company to work for. So whomever we hire needs to be a cultural fit first and foremost. The next thing is talent. We look for raw talent levels because we know we can develop them to have the skills and the knowledge base that we need them to have. So we really look for the talent. And then we look for energy and enthusiasm in the area that we're interested in hiring. So, they've got to be the cultural fit, they got to have the energy and enthusiasm and the talent. In terms of somebody that we think has got a lot of foundational skills that we can build on to help them through their career. And obviously, like everybody else, we look for people with experience in the areas that we're interested in, but we recognize that, probably less than half the time are we actually going to find people that have the experience we want them to have.
Right. Now, when you say the word cultural fit, how do you mean?
So from a cultural fit standpoint, we have, even in our mission, we have to smile, support, and show up. And that sounds really simplistic, but what it really means is you have to kind of attack everything with a sense of enthusiasm and positivity. You have to be able to be counted on by our clients and one another. So we always really have to support one another. And I think at the end of the day, something that's kind of funny is people will tell you, and I would tend to agree with this, that, when you work with folks from EDSI, you tend to work with a lot of really nice people. And I think what it boils down to, we have a lot of empathy and we care a lot. And I think what drives most of the behavior culturally in our company is when we can help our clients, whether those be individuals or whether they're companies. And I think that's a strong driver for people within this company is that we're always, we get charged up by helping people. And that's a very strong cultural thing within EDSI, and we look for that within anybody that we hire.
Excellent. Great point. Well, when it comes to creating the kind of environment that retains the best people, once you hired them over there at EDSI, what do you do? Put it this way: what do you feel are some of the key ingredients for success in EDSI's company's culture? What are some of the things that you're continuing to do once the people are hired and they're the right fit? What are the things you do to keep it happening in that environment?
Yeah. So for one thing, look, there's about 10 different major variables that impact turnover and retention. But some of the big things for EDSI, first of all, a lot of times people quit bosses, right? They don't.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we try to be very clear about anybody that's in a management role. If they are not suited to be a manager, then we try to put them into an area that's a strength versus terminating them or whatever it might be, or worse yet, letting them carry on in a management position where they're alienating talent underneath them. So we try to make sure we have good leaders and good folks in charge of managing or supervising other people. So that's always really, I think, important. In terms of retention, it's also important, especially with millennials and a lot of folks, let's say just folks that are under the age of 35. It's important that they see a career path. So, I've got this job today. It's very common that we see lots of people moving around because they didn't see the next step within their own company or a good next step. We try to put, especially our higher performers or our more talented folks, into career sculpting programs so that we can make sure that we really identify what they're interested in, what gets them out of bed in the morning, and then try to create jobs and move them into jobs and in a path that drives them towards their interests. But also we try to make sure that people understand, well, gosh, at EDSI, here are the different steps, here's the different levels, and here's what you got to do to get into these jobs so they can see their career paths or career ladders in front of them so they're not just guessing what that might be. And then we do a lot of things from a cultural standpoint to make it a meaningful place to work. We all donate X amount of time every year to go work with local charities. We have a meditation station that shows up every week, and people are invited to go out and meditate for a little while just to relax and de-stress. So we just try to make it a really nice atmosphere for people to be here. Because, look, whoever wins the talent war is upon us. And he who really excels in building a good culture and building the ability to develop and retain people, those companies are going to win. And there are companies that are going to fail simply because they were unable to recognize how important this talent development and talent management process really is.
Excellent. Jimmy, you just identified something there, and I was just reading something the other day about the challenge businesses are having with the millennials, and you just hit on something there, and you're saying that really what you're doing in your company is you're providing the right kind of structure for these folks to identify what their career path could be within the organization. Then you give them the support and the training to move along that path. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. We want to make sure that it's clear to them what their career paths could be and what their future could be, and that they can make their own future, and that's an important thing. But also with the millennials, they like to feel they need to understand a sense of purpose, which I think is really a great thing. So we try to, a lot of the work we do directly improves the lives of people, whether it be through improving a company or through finding folks jobs or training them. So they like to see that. They like to do the work that we do with charities. So that, I think, is really, really important. And probably one other thing involved there with the millennials is flexibility. We try to create as much flexibility as we can. An example of that is we have Flex Fridays, which means you basically work your average of 40 hours a week every week, but every other Friday you have off. So, and then you can kind of move those flex days around. So we try to create some flexibility. And I think more than just the millennials like that. I think everybody in the company loves that practice because it's really gives you a lot of freedom.
Boy, that's a great idea. That's the key, I think, is to be able to provide the provide the right kind of environment for people that can identify with your values, and at the same time make it a pleasant place to work and a place with a future. And you give them the tools to do that. Those are great factors. Excellent approach that you guys are taking there. Okay, well, we're just about at the end of our program. Jim, what advice would you have for small business owners that are out there if they want to create the kind of environment that you guys have been able to create at your organization, where you attract and you keep the best people that are out there?
Yeah. So first of all, you got to start within your own four walls, right? Make sure it's a good place to work. talk to your employees. We call them pulse surveys, every month, just to see what are we doing, how are we doing, how could we get better, what are we good at, what do we need to build on, how do we get better at certain things, where are we just bad, and make sure you're constantly improving and make people feel empowered to help make the company a better place to work. So that would be something that I would really encourage people. Get their own internal business good. And, simple things like basic concepts of management, make sure those are in place. Things like don't micromanage people, because micromanagement is, probably the number one destroyer of talent.
Right, sure.
Create flexibility where you can. Make sure people feel like they've got an input. And then once you've built a good culture, something that I tell my clients is first you have to understand that developing and managing talent is strategically important. It's incredibly important, and it's getting more important. So think about it as a core part of your strategy, and simple things like programs to recruit or referral bonuses. It used to be years ago that referral bonuses were very common in the manufacturing environment, and now you rarely see them. Well, if you build a good talented team with a good culture, they will start to refer people to you. But make sure you put a referral bonus in and structure it properly. But you start in your four walls, build some things to get good referrals, but then lastly I would say make sure you're developing your talent, because it's going to be very rare if you're just going to go outside and find exactly what you need. Start with good raw materials and build it, and then you're going to have a greater chance of success in the next, really the next decade.
Excellent advice, Jim. Jim, if our listeners want to just check out your website, check out your company, what would the website address be?
It's EDSISolutions.com.
Okay,
so
great.
EDSISolutions.com. And go to the website and you can check us out, and hopefully you can find what you're looking for there.
Sure. Maybe you might even have some future business coming your way. You never know. Jim, thanks so much for being on our program today. As always, it's a pleasure to speak with you, and we look forward to visiting with you again.
Tom, thank you very much. Great talking to you.
Thank you.